You probably think the White House is all about serious politics, weighty speeches, and dry power moves, right? Wrong. At certain points in history, the front lawn at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue looked less like a seat of government and more like a petting zoo gone rogue. I'm talking about a parrot that cursed so much it had to be kicked out of a presidential funeral, an alligator casually roaming the White House gardens, and yes, a raccoon treated like a family member by the president and first lady. Sounds like the setup for a political sitcom on Netflix, doesn't it? Except this isn't fiction. This is 100% history. Today, we're diving into the 5 weirdest presidential pets that ever lived in the White House. Creatures that turned America's most powerful address into something halfway between a zoo and a reality show. And trust me, by the last story, you'll be asking yourself, is this the White House or Washington, D.C.'s weirdest zoo? Andrew Jackson and Parrot Polly. If you think presidential funerals are always solemn and dignified, then you've never heard about Andrew Jackson and his feathered sidekick, Polly. Picture it, 1845, Jackson's funeral. Black suits, somber hymns, the minister offering final prayers when suddenly chaos, not from the mourners, but from Polly, the president's parrot. In the middle of the service, Polly starts shrieking every curse word in the book. I mean the kind of language that would make even 19th century politicians blush. The minister was horrified, guests were stunned, and eventually the bird had to be escorted out just to let the funeral continue. It's hilarious, but honestly, it fits Jackson perfectly. This was a man known for his volcanic temper, a president who fought more than 100 duels in his lifetime. So of course his parrot was basically a smaller, winged version of him. Loud, unruly, and impossible to ignore. Andrew Jackson once shot a man to defend his honor. And even after his death, his parrot was still firing off, let's call them verbal bullets. Zachary Taylor and old Whitey. President Zachary Taylor was a battle-hardened general, nicknamed Old Rough and Ready. But the real celebrity in his White House years wasn't Taylor himself. It was his warhorse, old Whitey. This horse had charged through the chaos of the Mexican-American War. But when Taylor brought Whitey back to the White House, the animal suddenly became a fan favorite. Visitors couldn't resist taking a souvenir from the legendary steed, and their idea of a keepsake, yanking out hairs from Whitey's tail. At first it was just a strand or two, but once one person did it, everyone followed suit. Before long, old Whitey's tail was practically bald, literally a bald horse. White House staff eventually had to guard the poor animal, otherwise guests would have plucked him clean like a feather duster. From the battlefield to the White House lawn, old Whitey kept on making sacrifices. This time not to bullets and bayonets, but to over-enthusiastic fans looking for a piece of history. Herbert Hoover and the White House Alligators. If you thought alligators roaming the White House sounds like a Hollywood comedy plot, surprise, it actually happened under President Herbert Hoover. Hoover and his family kept not one but 2 pet alligators. And no, they weren't always locked in cages. Sometimes these reptiles wandered freely across the White House grounds. Now imagine this. You're a congressman in the middle of the Great Depression, walking up the White House path to talk about unemployment and breadlines, only to dodge an alligator lounging by the steps. Visitors panicked. Staff had to keep one eye on paperwork and the other scanning for reptilian hazards. It was less Oval Office and more Jurassic Park, D.C. Herbert Hoover may not have gotten the economy under control, but he did make the White House the only place in Washington where the Secret Service had to protect guests from gators. President Calvin Coolidge may have had the biggest plot twist pet story in White House history. In 1926, a farm in Mississippi sent him a raccoon, and not as a gift. They sent it as Thanksgiving dinner. But instead of tossing her in the oven, the Coolidges looked at this little raccoon, thought she was adorable, named her Rebecca, and turned her into the official White House pet. Rebecca wasn't eaten, she was pampered. She had her own little house, went on walks around the White House lawn on a leash, and even popped up at official events like some kind of furry dignitary. Guests must have been rubbing their eyes. Wait, Is this the White House or the world's strangest petting zoo? Rebecca went from almost being Thanksgiving dinner to becoming first pet of the nation. Hands down, the sweetest plot twist in presidential pet history. Teddy Roosevelt and the White House mini zoo. If the previous pets made the White House seem quirky, Teddy Roosevelt's era cranked it up to full-blown wildlife park. Roosevelt wasn't just the president famous for saying, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." He was basically running a part-time zoo right out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. His family kept a badger that bit unsuspecting visitors, snakes let loose just to freak out staffers, hyenas cackling on the front lawn, and yes, even a kangaroo bouncing around the grounds. Visiting the White House back then wasn't just meeting the president. It was like getting free tickets to White House Zoo. To be fair, Roosevelt was a die-hard nature lover who created national parks and wildlife preserves. But it seems he also wanted his home office to double as a trial-run safari. Most presidents left behind political legacies. Roosevelt, he left behind a full-on mini zoo in the middle of Washington, D.C. Barack Obama and the Instagram dogs. When Barack Obama moved into the White House in 2009, he didn't just bring his family. He brought along two four-legged celebrities, Bo and later Sonny, both Portuguese water dogs. Bo was a gift from Senator Ted Kennedy, chosen as the first dog for Sasha and Malia. But within months, Bo wasn't just a family pet. He was a full-on celebrity. The press dubbed him the first dog of America, and fans even created dedicated pages just to follow his life. Then came Sonny, and together they basically turned the White House lawn into the classiest dog park in D.C. They showed up at Christmas events, posed with world leaders, and acted like seasoned influencers long before Instagram pet accounts became a thing. From Washington's hippo ivory dentures to Jackson's foul-mouthed parrot by the 21st century, the White House was stealing headlines thanks to two adorable dog-fluencers. America couldn't help but say, "Yes, we can, pet them." From Washington's creaking hippo teeth to Jackson's cursing parrot, to Obama's Instagram-famous dogs, White House history isn't just about politics and power. It's also packed with quirky, hilarious, and very human stories. It reminds us that behind the faces on dollar bills and the soaring speeches, these presidents were still people, with weird habits, mischievous pets, and anecdotes so strange you'd think they were satire, except they are true. So, which presidential pet do you think takes the crown? Was it Polly the cursing parrot, Rebecca the raccoon who dodged the dinner plate, or Bo and Sonny, America's most photogenic duo? Drop your pick in the comments, because your takes and debates are what make this community fun. And remember, this is just the warm-up. In the next video, we're diving into 6 weird habits inside the White House, from presidents who slept cuddling goats to bizarre medicine routines. Trust me, after that, you'll never look at the White House the same way again.